Hi there, welcome back to Tiff Reads Books, where today I have an update on the Fable situation for you, and I want to give you a little bit of my thoughts on the situation. I also have two other things that came up this week. We are 9 days into 2025, and things have been happening in the bookish spaces. Like, they're way more than what I even have been talking to you about. I pay attention to a lot of it, but way more even beyond that scope. One of my favorite things that I want to plug in the beginning here, and I think she has been doing a really good job of covering all of this stuff as well, is Lady Whistle Threads. If you search that on Threads, you can find a recap every Monday of what has happened in bookish threads. It's funny and it's informative, and she's always trying to continue to use inclusive and appropriate language and discussions around harmful things, such as everyone's favorite turf, and things that have been coming up with her recently as well. So definitely check her out if you want to know what is going on in the bookish spaces. I think she does a really good job of covering broad things. But anyway, Fable. Okay, so Monday night, Fable had a town hall, and they discussed a lot of these things. It was about an hour long. About 20 minutes of it was introductions. I did get a link and I did attend. I didn't ask any questions. I just observed and took some notes and some screen recordings, and if we'll see what I can manage to cobble together. So essentially the overview was them initially, Chris, whose last name I can't remember, but he's the guy who I featured his TikTok in the last video. He is their head of and so he's not doing any of the tech stuff directly from my understanding, but he is communicating to us what is happening on the tech side. So he gave us an overview and answered a few questions of what has been going on. So first off, they have removed their generative AI completely and totally, and are unsure if they're going to be moving forward using generative AI. Eventually, near the end, we finally found out that their AI is not in-house AI. No one on their staff is making the program. It is all outsourced. It's third party. They use OpenAI, and I'm sure you're on YouTube, you've probably seen advertisements for OpenAI. So this is something that a company can outsource to and use its, what's the word I'm looking for? Algorithms and programming and all those technical stuff. Anybody can pay to use OpenAI. So what they were doing was they were taking all of the synopses that the publishers put forward, and from every book you read, that was getting fed into the AI program, and then they asked it to be a little saucy in its reply. If you've ever used Grammarly, or the one time that I was like, accidentally hit the AI button on Instagram Messenger, and I was like, what does this do when I accidentally pressed it? It gives you options to like rewrite your sentences, rewrite your phrasing. Your emails can do that. Be like, do you want this to sound more professional? Essentially, they're using an AI to look at all of your words and reevaluate it. So they basically gave the AI a prompt to write this using something a little bit roasty. They called it like gentle roasting or something like that about whatever people had read. That algorithm and how it writes the language that it uses is not under the control of Fable. They were unaware that these types of things would pop out of it and that it would be bigoted. That to me speaks that they're not doing a lot of research. I don't blame them necessarily more than I blame other companies, because I don't think a lot of companies aren't looking at how these models speak about people, what they're pulling from, what they're trained on. They don't care about the training data. They just use it because it's a buzzword and it's popular right now. And you can see that by how other people's AIs are acting and all the stuff that's starting to come out, because this has sparked other things. So basically what he said is they used generative AI in 3 distinct areas. They use it in the shelfie, the reader type, and the yearly wrapped. The yearly wrapped, they're unsure. They didn't, I don't know if they're unsure, but they didn't tell us what they were wanting to do with it, whether that was regards to time or the fact that they have almost a full year to figure out what they're going to do with it. That being said, I have a feeling it will start to look more like the Spotify Wrapped, given that their founder, Padma Sri Warrior, Padma is how she was preferring to be called in the thing, the town hall. Padma is according to Wikipedia and other sources, also on the board for Spotify. So there's that. Spotify has been using AI for their Wrapped for a while. It's obvious if you look at it and you know what to look for AI. There's a pretty good chance, I think, that Fable will start to do something very similar to the Spotify one and will try to mimic that model. How they're going to do that financially, I'm not sure. Their reader types, they've gotten rid of completely, basically. So that's the one where it feeds in all the books and it pops out a little sentence. That was the one that was very, very horrible. It was telling people to diversify by reading white authors, that was the whole problem. So instead of that, now what you'll get, they said, is a poem written by one of their in-house writers about the different seasons, and then you'll get a review of what books you read, basically. So same type of information, but you won't get an AI blurb about it. Padma said she wants to fix this going forward. She did say in the town hall, one of the things that she's always wanted is for someone to look at the books that she read and tell her what type of reader she is. I'm sure other people feel that way, but I found that really interesting. But she said she's always wanted someone to look at everything and be like, you're this type of person. So that's what she wants this to be able to do at some point. So I do have a feeling that will be coming back. So that's the monthly Wrapped, the reader types. The last thing is the shelfie. What they're going to be doing with the shelfie is not using generative AI to get that label. If you remember, that was the one that used a very derogatory word in regards to Indigenous authors. And so they got rid of it giving you a title. What they said they're going to do is...
We're now moving to a model where we're going to have kind of a default title that it's the same for everyone, and then you'll be able to customize that. So you can edit the text. What's actually really fun about that switch is that you will also be able to use that if you want to share out any sort of list of books. It doesn't have to be your top 8 favorite books. Then you can customize the title, like, hey, these are my favorite holiday reads, that type of stuff.
Everyone will have a default title on their shelfie, and you can go in and personally edit that. So you can come up with what you want to title your shelfie. So giving some more reader and user customization. Those are the basic things they talked about. They spent other time talking about other things that people had suggested and wanted. I found it really interesting that a lot of the things that people were requesting that they add in were things that StoryGraph already does. And since they're doing a lot of things that Goodreads did, and then Twitter kind of by having their like social pages, essentially the users were requesting to have all of these apps combined into one app. Why would you include AI? So they got asked that question. There was an answer at the end of, and I don't think she really answered the question because she was asked, so Padma was asked,
community and art in the form of the written word. Why is AI, which takes away from the human element, so important?
Yeah, I don't think AI specifically is what we're about. We're about human communities and human connection. And wherever any technology can help us build those communities, that's where we want to use it in order to facilitate those connections. We wouldn't be talking to each other today if we hadn't created Fable and got a way to know each other, right? Because I'm deeply grateful to this community. I read with 2,700 people in my club who I would have never gotten to know had those connections not been made.
I don't think she answered the question, but she did kind of give a lot of information about how she wants the app to move forward, and she wants it to be a community-driven space. I think that's very positive in its like core. So what this says for the app moving forward is I think it's worth watching. I think they're listening, they're evolving, but I think that there was a strong lack of oversight and a lack of testing and understanding of what these models can do. So I don't hold it against them, especially given that they are trying to change and trying to be better. That being said, the ethos of the app itself, with its desire to, the whole point of the app I finally found an article from 2020 or 2021, when the app was first starting. And I think I screenshot it. If not, I will go back and find it. And I found an interview with Padma where she had said her goal of this was for mental health. This was supposed to be a mental health app. And given that we were in 2020 and 2021, mental health was at the top of everybody's talking points. So she wanted to make an app for that. And I kept being like, how is this mental health? How is this mental health? And so essentially the mental health aspect of it is, she wanted companies to buy a subscription to hold book clubs for their employees to join a book club within the company. That was the original purpose of this app. I don't know if that's still the purpose. It has driven towards book clubs. It does seem to be very popular for book club use, and a lot of people have book clubs on Fable because of its integration. So I don't know what they're going to be doing as far as that, or what their goal is. But for me, I'm not going to be using it simply because of it being so much more about a social media app, and that's not what I don't need another social media app. There are so many, I have enough. Like, I don't need another one. So for me, I won't be going to it, but I honestly don't think it's because of the controversy anymore at this point. I think they have addressed it appropriately so far. That being said, I am not one of the harmed groups, so it seems like they're trying to move in the right space, but I would try to put forward more voices of the people who were harmed by the things that their AI said, on whether or not they are moving forward appropriately. But it does seem like they are doing their best effort to address the situation and to try to move forward in a positive direction and to remove potential harm from the things that their app is doing. So I'll leave that up to you. Since then, there has been another AI issue with StoryGraph this time. And StoryGraph has an AI feature. It's beta. It's in its beta testing. If you watched my StoryGraph overview that I did, and I will be doing another one on stats soon, I showed you that you could get an AI recommendations and AI overviews of books if you opted in. I have opted out because I don't like AI. So you can opt in, and it is beta testing. Beta testing means you report the issues that are happening to the app, and they will fix it. So StoryGraph is interesting. Where Fable has a team and multiple employees, StoryGraph is a one-woman tech show. And she has said this multiple times. She does everything on her own. She may hire people during her busy season to help her, maybe, but it seems like she's definitely doing a lot of it on her own. And so she's writing all this code. She's constantly doing these adjustments. Right now, the month of January, she's promising updates regularly to the app, and it's constantly changing when you open it up the way that it appears to you. They've just put out multiple updates. So I think this is potentially being addressed, but the point of it being in beta is that you report the issues you're having so that it can be fixed. Whether or not StoryGraph does a public announcement on whether they're addressing it, I'm not sure. She did say in her stories the other day, and I should have gone back and screen record it, but she did say, she gave us like a very sleepy update. I'll see if it's in her highlights on Instagram. She did say that she's been working nonstop to implement the updates that were planned, and she said that she's constantly paying attention to things she's tagged in and her DMs and her messages. And she's like, if you think there's something we are not aware of, I am aware of it. I am aware of it. I just have not had time to address it, but I have a plan for how I'm going to address it. I would hope that that is implying this AI issue. So what people's issue is, and I'm on the fence about this, but again, I'm not in one of the harmed groups. So to me, this is the problem with AI in general, okay? Is that the way that StoryGraph gives you book recommendations is if you haven't read something before, it'll say you've not read this before, we're unsure how you'll respond to it. Or it'll say you've given books with this theme before, low ratings. We don't think you'll like it. And it always gives you a reason for why it's giving you that, and then the wording. So my thing that I've picked up is that people don't like the wording of this because someone posted a screenshot that they looked at the recommendations for a book and it said this book has disabled characters and you've not read books with that theme before, therefore we don't know how you'd respond to it, or something along those lines. I'll find the screenshot. And so that's taken as we don't want you to read this book because it has themes that you've not read before. But to me, it's saying we don't know how you'll respond. So that's, again, to me, but other people are interpreting it differently, and intent doesn't matter. It's how things are impacted. Like, if it impacts you negatively, it doesn't matter if it intended to or not. So StoryGraph has not addressed that yet. Other people have chimed in and saying, StoryGraph's told me that I won't like Christian themed books because I've not read one before, and I've not read this before, so I won't like it. So the other concern is, why are we considering disability rep a trope? And I don't think it's a trope, it's a theme. Themes and tropes are kind of similar, but having a character of a specific type is a quality of the book. It's not, whether or not it's like the main focus doesn't necessarily mean that it is like a trope. So mentioning, hey, this book has characters in the forest, you've never read characters in the forest, we don't know if you'd like it, is not a trope. It's just a fact of how the book's presenting things. So that's my interpretation. Given that, I still think StoryGraph should at least address it and be like, hey, we heard you, we are going to work on it. That being said, I have seen reports on Reddit recently that people have been having trouble getting the AI recommendation to work, that it's not been working for them and it's been shut off. So it may be unavailable due to this, or it may be going through changes. I do believe that it is their in-house AI and that's why it's in beta. I don't think they're outsourcing it, but I'm not sure on that either. So because she hasn't said anything about it. So if she does say anything about it, I will update you. But as far as I know, she's not said anything about it. The very last issue that is happening is another bookish space. BookSirens is kind of like NetGalley for advanced reader copies. Essentially, people who want to get their book that is about to be published read can put it up on BookSirens and people can request to read it, and then they'll be potentially given a copy to read ahead of time in exchange for a review. I got an invite to BookSirens last year and I read a couple of books off it. It has a lot more indie authors on it than NetGalley does. And so and smaller authors and small press authors and self-published authors. And so I read a couple of books off it last year so I could kind of figure out how it works. It does give you really cool reader information. It pulls from your Goodreads, which is interesting. Like it pulls all your Goodreads information if you link with Goodreads, and it gives you all these like graphs and stats and stuff about what type of reader you are and what type of books you're reading and how many books you rated and like your rating curve and all this stuff, so that authors can decide if they want you to review their book based on how many reviews you give on StoryGraph, or not StoryGraph, on Goodreads, which I thought was interesting. So that's the backstory on what BookSirens is. Someone posted this recently, I think I do have screenshots of this, where a author had noted that his book was listed with other sci-fi books, and it was like sci-fi you might like, and it included this cover. And I'm not going, Planet of the, supposedly it's a satire, and he was like, hey, I don't want my book in a recommended with this. I don't think that's appropriate. And they emailed the author back and they were like, basically, if you don't like it, leave. If you don't like it, leave. And they said they pride themselves on diversity, which I was like, that's diversity? Okay. So they doubled down and they were like, no, we're not going to take it down. If you don't like it, you can take down your book. We're not going to take down books. And that felt kind of gross given what we're in the United States about to go into. So I deleted my I deleted my account on BookSirens and I won't be using them. I have not seen anything since. That was on, I think that was on Monday morning when I saw that come across my feed. So I have those screenshots. I haven't seen any updates. I've just seen more people complaining about it and quote posting. I just want to say retweeted, but it's whatever Threads version of retweeting is. Just seeing people retweeting constantly. So that's what's going on there. So that's your drama in the book spaces currently, and that's not even including Meta getting rid of fact checkers. So yeah, that's what's going on currently. Fable, StoryGraph, and BookSirens. If I have more updates on any of these, I will check in and let you know. But so far, it seems like Fable's trying to do the best that they can. StoryGraph, we'll wait and see what happens. I would be all for just the removal of the AI feature in general. But it seems like their AI recommendations are something that people really like, at least according to Reddit. Everyone's like trying to like be like, how do I get this to work better? I really like it. And I'm like, just stop using it. Like, anyway, yeah, I will see you soon. So hopefully this clears up some stuff for you. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll see if I have the answers and just didn't cover them.